Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:00 p.m. on May the 2nd, 2023. I'd like to welcome you all to Richland County Council's regular session. This meeting will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Brenham,
Here.
Pugh,
Here.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Barron,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
English,
Present.
Newton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 2, the invocation that will be given by the Honorable Yvonne McBride. Councilwoman, you're recognized.
Allow me a minute or two to share with you a prayer from an unidentified author that embodies my personal prayers for all public leaders. At this time, should you desire, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening giving thanks for all you have done and praying that you will continue to bless the citizens of Richland County and its leaders in the way that only you can do. Father, provide leaders with wise and godly counselors who will provide honest wisdom and encouragement. Weld up humility in the hearts of leaders to make apologies or adjustments when it is needed. Lord, pour out our spirit of cooperation between public leaders. Break down the barriers that are built up by selfish ambition for personal power. God, give leaders clarity to know what issues are most important to dedicate their time to. And please safeguard their families. Soften the hearts of leaders to hear and understand the needs of the communities they serve. Father, bring a spirit of harmony and righteousness among the staff members who work to support each elected leader. And last but not least, protect leaders from falling into temptations or bribes, unfaithfulness, or straying from what they know is right. And Heavenly Father, protect us from the plots of evils to stand for what you have established. It is in your name that we pray. Amen. Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman McBride, for those very encouraging words. And before we move to the next item on the agenda, we have some special guests in the chamber this evening with us. And in fact, they're all, with the exception of our clerk, they're all judges, but they're all related to our judiciary. We have our probate court judge, the Honorable Amy McCullough. Good to see you this evening, Judge McCullough. We also have former Chief Justice, but she's still my Chief Justice, Chief Justice Jean Toll. And we also have our Clerk of Court, Ms. Jeanette McBride. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe each of them are trailblazers in their own way. When they were elected and or nominated, they were the first females to serve and hold those positions. And then also we have an associate probate court judge with us this evening. I believe that's Judge Matthew Brock. Good to see you, Judge Brock. Did I miss anyone? All right. Next item on the agenda is item 4, presentation of proclamations. Item 4A, a proclamation recognizing Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midland, South Carolina. That will be given by the Honorable Derek Pugh. Councilman Pugh, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Ms. Monique McDaniels, who is the Vice President of Community Engagement here for Goodwill, and I think Communications is going to read the proclamation into the record.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, hold 1 second. Are we going to do as we've done in the past and just read all of them and then take the pictures later?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. A proclamation recognizing Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midland, South Carolina. Whereas Goodwill Industries International is a nonprofit organization founded in 1902 in Boston by Reverend Edgar J. Helms, a social innovator who created the goodwill philosophy of no charity but a chance. With a network of more than 156 community-based autonomous organizations in the United States and Canada, with a presence in 12 different countries, and whereas Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midlands, South Carolina, was founded in 1973, offering career services, job training, certifications, and programs that help South Carolinians become independent through employment. And whereas Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midlands, South Carolina, employs 787 team members, provides 49 attended donation centers, 41 retail stores, and 27 job connections, with a local impact of $90 million in wage income in Upstate and Midland, and 1.38 million donations that didn't become trash. 23,076 residents found job search assistance. 11,565 residents used job training and placement services. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Councilman Derek Pugh of Richland County District 2 recognizes the social impact, dedication, and efforts of Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midlands, South Carolina, and asks the Richland County community to join him in celebrating 50 years in the Upstate Midlands by proclaiming the month of May to be Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midlands, South Carolina Month.
You recognize Mr. Pugh?
All right, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Goodwill for all the great work that you guys do in the community. They have some really great job connection programs. I personally have experienced having conversations with some convicted felons that came home and were able to obtain their trucking CDL license, and now they're being productive citizens in society, and that's what it's about. Once you get an opportunity to pay your debt to society, you should have the opportunity to be able to come back and provide for your family. So I want to say hats off to Goodwill for 50 years of continued service to the Midlands and the Upstate, and we look forward to the next 50 years. Thank you, ma'am.
I want to give a shout out to Monique McDaniels, who's also with Goodwill, and she is my constituent. So I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge her, especially coming up on an election year next year. So, all right. All right. It's a joke. Next item on the agenda is item 5. It's going to be the presentation of resolutions. And just as Councilman Pugh said earlier, we have a number of proclamations or resolutions this evening. So we will have the resolutions, each one of them read, and then we'll move over to the seal for the photo ops. And then at that point, whoever is here for the respective proclamation or resolution will have an opportunity to speak and address the body. Next item is 5A, a resolution recognizing Mental Illness Recovery Center, Inc., and declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. With that being a resolution, it will require a vote. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
It's
Second.
been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And Madam Clerk, who will read the resolution? You recognize Ms. English.
Mr. Chair, a resolution recognizing Mental Illness Recovery Center Incorporated and declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas Mental Illness Recovery Center Incorporated, Mercy, focuses on creating pathways to recovery for those who are experiencing or at risk of mental illness or homelessness. And whereas Mercy provides behavioral health care, stable and supportive housing, and other essential needs to help residents lacking support live more successfully. And whereas through its outreach center and homeless street outreach teams, Mercy provides clinical support to hundreds of people annually in Richland and Lexington counties. And whereas the state's Department of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office has found a reduction in hospital use and cost savings to hospitals directly related to clients who enroll in Mercy services. And whereas Mercy has supported mental wellness in our community for more than 60 years. And whereas good mental health is essential to the well-being of our families, communities, schools, and businesses. And whereas greater public awareness about mental illness can help change negative attitudes and behaviors towards people with mental illness. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, and organization shares the burden of mental illness and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Richland County Council members, Jason Branham, Derek Pugh, Yvonne McBride, Paul Livingston, Allison Terracio, Don Weaver, Gretchen Barron, Overture Walker, Jessica Mackey, Cheryl English, and Shaquise Newton, recognizes Mercy for its contributions to the county and throughout the state of South Carolina, and does hereby resolve May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month throughout the county. Council encourages residents, businesses, healthcare providers, and organizations to recommit to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness, reducing stigma and discrimination, and promoting accessible services for all people with mental illnesses.
Okay.
As a mental health child and adolescent counselor, it is my honor to read this and to be a part of this, and it really does make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve when you take time to understand what's going on, and for every action there's a reaction, so people are not just crazy, they're responding to something. And understanding why they're responding is a huge thing, so thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is item 5B. It's a resolution recognizing Small Business Week. It's the week of May the 1st through the 5th, 2023. That being a resolution will also require a vote, so I entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. Is there a
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Terratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
You're recognized.
Thank you. As a small business owner, it is my pleasure to read this resolution. Whereas Small Business Week is a time set aside to acknowledge small businesses for the contributions they make to our community, and whereas small businesses are the core of every city, maintaining traditional values while providing fresh ideas, new jobs, and increased flexibility. And whereas small businesses are vibrant, vital segments of our economy and vast economic forces throughout the nation. And whereas small businesses fall into either part-time or full-time operations, but are almost exclusively run by self-employed entrepreneurs. And whereas small businesses represent a tradition of hardworking, dedicated individuals living the American dream to provide for their families and opportunities for their neighbors to make valuable contributions to the community. And whereas small businesses provide an incredible influence on the stability of our communities, and whereas the approximately 15,000 small businesses, many of them minority-owned and operated throughout Richland County, employing between 1 and 49 people, and whereas residents of our communities and communities across the nation are being asked to support small businesses during Small Business Week and throughout the year, and whereas Richland County recognizes the value that small businesses bring to our community and salutes their remarkable contributions, and now therefore be it resolved that Richland County Council members Jason Branham, Derek Pugh, Yvonne McBride, Paul Livingston, Allison Terracio, Don Weaver, Gretchen Barron, Overture Walker, Jessica Mackey, Cheryl English, and Shaquise Newton do hereby resolve the week of May 1st through 5th, 2023 as Small Business Week.
Well, at this time, we can commence with the photo op. So, yeah, Goodwill first.
18 counties in Richland County. Is one of our biggest territory. I gave the clerk some information. Please take a look at it. Allow us to help your constituents. We have career services for everybody. If you've seen our billboards and our commercials, it's any field, any age, any program. And so please take advantage of that. My information is in there. We also gave you a 50-year coin as a souvenir. So hopefully you'll remember that when you have constituents that want to talk about career services and how we can help them empower and create economic development, okay? Thank you all so much again. And I also want to recognize Gail Page. She is our longest serving Midlands employee. She's been with us for 20 years.
All right, next would be this is the resolution recognizing mental illness recovery. So Mercy.
And I'm Julie Ann Avon with Mercy, and I just want to thank Council for this recognition and for the observance of Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll be with you tomorrow providing lunch and learn for staff and back again towards the end of the month. Y'all should be proud you had more people want to learn about mental health than your training room could hold tomorrow. So we'll be doing a second session, and I encourage any of you that are available to join us for a tour on the Thursday the 12th. We'll do 2 tours for council, one from 9 to 10:30, and then the second one will be from 2 until 3:30. It'll be an abbreviated tour, but you can learn lots about us. Several folks have been before, several members of council, so hopefully they'll encourage you if you haven't been. Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of the United States Small Business Administration, President Biden, we would like to thank you for this proclamation. We've been doing this for about 60 years. SBA was created back in 1953 for the sole purpose of helping small businesses. If there's one way that you can bring people out of poverty into wealth, it's by creating your own small businesses. In South Carolina, 99% of the businesses are small businesses, and they create over 50% of the jobs in South Carolina. So it's a very large impact. So we appreciate your support of this, and we'll be back again next year to do the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry, before we,
Recognize, Madam Vice Chair.
thank you. Before we go to the next item, there is one item that did not make it on our agenda this evening, and it is a special recognition for our very own Bryant Davis. He is our Assistant Director of Community and Government Services at Richland County, and tomorrow is his last day with us. And so we want to take some time to publicly tell him thank you, and we appreciate all that you have done for Richland County, what you have done for your colleagues, for County Council, for our citizens, but also the role that you've played in Richland County. Brian has been involved in many organizations in Richland County and has been awarded for his service and his commitment to our community, most recently being awarded the highest honor from United Way of the Midlands for all of his volunteer and community service. And so please come on down, because we we thank you and we appreciate you. And even though you're leaving, we still want to make sure we take the time to make sure you know that we appreciate you. And so I know my colleagues all have a few words they want to say as well, since we didn't get the invite to the party.
Councilman Pugh.
First of all, I want to say congratulations, sir. Well deserved. Brian, you have gone above and beyond. You give us constructive criticism, and that is brave to give the county council constructive criticism. And I appreciate you. But not only has Brian been a impactful here, just like Madam Vice Chair said, he's a mover in our community, and he's also a graduate of Leadership Columbia class of 2020, the best class ever. And I just want to make sure I put that out there on the record. But congratulations, man, and good luck on your new endeavors, and I'm sure you'll do well.
Baron.
Thank you. I'm going to be really brief, and because I've already had my conversation with him, but just note that it does my heart well when I'm able to come here and sit at the dais or to go to town hall meetings and know that my number one constituent, also employee of Richland County, is going to be right there to make sure things run very smoothly in excellence. When I wanted to have town hall meetings, everybody was looking at me a little strange, but Brian was like, no, let's talk about it. We can do it this way, and we can do it. And every town hall got better and better, and I thank you for it, because I believe now many of us are doing town hall meetings, and they don't look like the first one that I did because of you, sir, and we thank you.
Ms. Newton.
Thank you. And despite the fact that you're leaving before my town hall in a few weeks, it has just been wonderful to watch you, not just the way that you move in the community, not just the way that you really model professionalism and proactivity for the county, but also just representing the full person as a father to three wonderful daughters. They're so wonderful. I got reverb just to talk about how good they are. But it has just been a delight and a pleasure to work with you. And I wish you the best in all your endeavors, and that you remember that the door is always open should you decide you want to return to Richland County.
Have the floor.
So definitely wasn't expecting this tonight. I am just a person that at a very early age, with my parents just being involved in church, have always reminded me about being humble. My father is the last of 12 children, so I have a lot of older aunts and uncles that have instilled a lot of wisdom in me, learning from older people and spending time just really delving into what there is and what you can do. I always believe that you do your best to leave a place better than when you got there. I hope that's something that I've been able to do here. I'm very thankful for Mr. Brown and our administrative staff, Lori, and Eric and Dr. Thompson, everybody else, allowing me the opportunity to engage and do those things. And so I think I'm just kind of humbled to do that. I am not a person that looks for recognition in that. So you definitely made me come out of my shell to come down here and talk. But I'm thankful for everything I've been able to do for our Richland County community. I love local government because it's an opportunity to have an impact right where you are. And so being able to see that happening every day is something so amazing for me. I cannot take this moment without thanking my OSBO ladies, Pam, Erica, and Margaret, who I worked very closely with for many years over in Suite 3014. So made it happen over there. So so many new people have come in and have enjoyed working with our communications team. You guys have been absolutely fabulous. So I'm absolutely going to miss all of you guys and the experience I have, but I'm looking forward to taking those things with me and building on them. And you guys now are a part of all the things that I've been able to continue to do. And so my children have learned where my office is and all the things that are here, and they know you guys and they see you. And so that was what I wanted them to be able to walk away with, knowing their community and knowing where their parents worked and what they did. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 6, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes. You recognize Mr. Livingston?
I understand that there are several folks here for the issue dealing with the Judicial Center security. And per our rules, if there's no outside counsel, and I think there's not any outside counsel, is that correct?
That is correct.
So per our rules, those individuals would have to wait until the end of our meeting. I would like to at this time ask my colleagues to consider moving this item up to next on the agenda so we can take care of this item and those folks don't have to stay until the end of the meeting.
Second, if that's.
Well, if I may just chime, so it's been seconded, so let's get to discussion then. May I be recognized?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Recognize, Mr. Chair.
I anticipate a motion coming from someone as part of the body, to suspend the rule so that we can, go into executive session on this item first, as part of our first executive session tonight. So I don't believe that it's necessary, Mr. Livingston, to move it up, but if my colleagues differ, then, I'm willing to, hear, difference of opinion.
But per our rules, I have to take some action.
Right, correct. I mean, so there will be a motion tonight, or I anticipate that there will be a motion to suspend the rules for that specific purpose. Okay. All right. Okay, so back to item 6, approval of the minutes. It's item 6A.
Point of order.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. English.
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Point of order.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. There was a motion that was seconded, so we have to,
We need to vote it down. Do we need to vote, I meant?
yes.
So it's, okay.
Unless,
I can withdraw
unless he
my
You
motion.
rescinds
want to
it.
draw your motion,
I can
Mr.
withdraw my
Livingston?
motion if the person second take the.
Thank you. All right, okay. Ms. English.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I moved for reconsideration of item 16C, formerly Charlie Echo, now FN America LLC, on page 13.
Well, allow me to do this first, Ms. English. Let me call that, let me call the approval of the minutes for item 6A. And then if you have a motion, then we can hear it at that time. So that'll say maybe a few seconds, okay? So item 6A, approval of the minutes, regular session, April 18th, 2023. Any changes, additions, or deletions? And Ms. English, you're recognized.
Reconsideration of item 16C, formerly Charlie Echo, now FN America LLC, on page 13 of the April 18th meeting.
A second.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? You recognize Ms. McBride?
Could you please give me a little bit more information because I can't find it? What is this about?
That's FN America, Ms. McBride. That item was voted on at the regular session on April the 18th, 2023. That was it's an economic development item, a request for tax incentives for F in America, which is a local gun manufacturer, and the vote was 5-5. And so at that time, the motion failed, but it was not reconsidered at that time. Did that answer your question, Ms. McBride?
Yes, it answers my question. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Livingston, you recognize, and then Mr. Weaver.
Mr. Chair and colleagues, I did not speak to this item at our last meeting because I felt there was no reason to, because of the substantial votes that took place on first and second reading. And please let me preface my comments by saying I have strong concerns about gun violence and the need for gun control and regulations in our community. I'm also passionate and committed to doing what I can do statutorily and legally as a council member to do whatever I can do to impact violence in our community. Now, from a personal and moral perspective, I think there are too many guns and too few regulations. However, what's before me now is an economic development matter. I believe making economic development decisions solely on one's moral perspective can be very problematic, dangerous, and lead us down a slippery slope. Where do we draw the line? For example, I can recall when we talked about recruiting and getting Mark Anthony DeBruin. Someone said to me, we shouldn't recruit that company because, I don't drink alcohol and beverages, beer beverages and so forth, so why should we do that? Just recently read where Right Dose Pharmaceutical is producing a drug because there's a national shortage supply shortage for that particular drug. Do we say, no, you can't do that? What, for example, the big issue right now dealing with abortion? What if a company came to our community and said, you know what, there's a short supply of the abortion pills, so we want to expand our company? Do we say that based on our moral principles? Someone said to me about Scott voters, they're trying to force us to, buy and engage with electric vehicles. Do we make a decision based on that? See, my focus and challenge in my role as a council member is how I can make a direct impact on gun violence. Many of my constituents are victims of the symptoms of gun violence. Now, what I can do as a council member to tackle these symptoms and root causes is things like providing the resources for mental health, livable wage jobs, education, law enforcement, recreation. Because the real solution, as it relates to authority for gun control and regulations, rests primarily with our state and elected officials. And I'm committed to joining you and encourage our state and federal officials to do whatever possible to regulate and reduce gun violence and take responsibility for doing that. What we're talking about tonight is a company that has spent 40 years with us, who have been a good corporate citizen, with our military, with training events, fundraising, as well as with our SC Development Alliance, with the World Affairs Council, and I can go on. And we're talking about 600 jobs for our community. So for those reasons is why I supported this initiative last time, and it's my intent to do it again.
Mr. Livingston, Mr. Weaver, and then Ms. English. And then after Ms. English, Ms. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, just so I understand what I'm voting on, so if Mr. Livingston's motion, Ms. English's motion, so a yes vote would be not to reconsider?
Right, no, so in this instance, a yes vote would, and assuming that the yes vote is the prevailing vote, it puts the item back before the body again for, to actually vote on the merits. Right now, this is procedural, so there's a vote to determine whether or not this should even come back before the body.
So a yes vote brings it back?
A yes vote brings it back, a no vote is saying, no, it shouldn't come back before the body.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Ms. English and then Ms. McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to kind of echo some of the things that Mr. Livingston had mentioned. Number one, that this manufacturer mainly supports our military, and I would hate for us to send our military men and women overseas with nothing to defend our country with. And also they provide service weapons to our sheriff's department. And just speaking with just different people and doing my homework on this, it's not so much that I had a change of heart, but I had truly understand the need and the economic impact to all of Columbia, especially towards Fort Jackson, since it's in my district. And if the costs go up and they move out, and once before the military was considering closing Fort Jackson down, and the economic impact to Columbia would be catastrophic. And so just doing that homework and speaking with different ones, that's my reason for reconsideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. McBride, and then Mr. Racia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I sit here and listen to the conversations that have taken place, my vote was never about gun control. My vote was based on economic development. My vote was based on the fact that FN has been in Richland County for over 40 years. And Richland County has been good to FN. We supported them. For 40 years, they received a tax incentive. 40 years. The purpose of incentives is to encourage businesses to come in, but not to take care of them for the entire time. But more than that, of the 40 years, I'm concerned about our funds, incentives being used, not for military, because we are 100% behind military, selling guns to military. We are 100% behind selling guns for law enforcement. The question is, do you want tax incentives to be used to sell guns commercially? Now, if F&N or any company wants to sell guns, then don't come to us for tax incentives to sell guns commercially. I have issues with incentives for selling guns commercially. Now, F&N can sell guns or do whatever they want to in Richland County. That is not the issue. The issue is the use of tax incentives. So think about it. You know, you hear people talk about, let's help those that are not able to take care of themselves financially. So we give public assistance. Our goal is to give public assistance so that eventually they will be able to get off public assistance and take care of themselves. What we are establishing is corporate welfare on the backs of taxpayers. So I'm not going to let people gaslight this issue saying that it's political about gun control and that we will take guns and not be able to sell them to military and law enforcement, because that is not true. We have not lost anything because F&N was planning on expanding in other counties, and of course they come to South Carolina where we incentivize selling of guns to commercials. So no, I've got many calls, I've talked to many people, and also I've looked. Can anyone on county tell me the number of Richland County citizens that benefit from the employment at F&N? The numbers that we have, we cannot say in county council. But even more so than that, the fact is that at some point we need to stop continuously incentivizing one country and give other companies the opportunities to come. I think Richland County has an excellent representation, and the larger companies are coming here because they know of our concern and they know of our support. So chicanery, trickery, or whatever you use to get this back on the vote, I will oppose it. Thank you.
Ms. McBride. Mr. Racio, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So since we took this vote, it was pretty heavily covered in the media, in the press. And one of the pictures in the paper was of the retail store. So that is not about our troops or about our law enforcement. It's about just retail sales. I will say that since we took that vote on social media, I did have to start to monitor the bots and the trolls and start blocking and deleting comments and the like. Because as soon as anything like this is picked up, those folks come out in force. And so it is no wonder that folks have felt certain things. I will say that from a constituent standpoint, I've had overwhelmingly positive feedback on this vote. Ms. McBride or someone I believe said, actually Mr. Livingston, I believe, called them a good corporate citizen. And we've heard that from others. I would just say that, we also have folks who are at the State House, and I don't believe that I have heard anything about this corporation trying to be a good corporate citizen when it comes to any kind of common sense gun laws or legislation. Being a good corporate citizen, I believe, would be participating in some of the regulations that would hopefully benefit the reputation of the manufacturer and those who would carry their weapons. So, thank you. I will not be supporting this again.
Thank you, Mr. Racio. Any additional discussion or questions from the body? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
I'm recusing myself due to previous recusal reasons as far as my parent company representing this item that's in question.
thank you. English,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
motion approved.
So
Mr. Chair,
now back before the full body. So Ms. English, you recognize.
move to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? If I may, I would like to speak, to this item. And let me just say that I share, my colleagues', desire when it comes to, curbing gun violence in America. I also share their desire to do something. And I also understand that there is a sense of helplessness at times when you consider what seems to be a perpetual cycle of gun violence, and there's inaction at the federal level, and there's inaction at the state level, and what you hear constantly are just, thoughts and prayers. And so I feel that. And I would even go as far as to say that I staunchly support sensible gun legislation. I support universal background checks. I support red flag laws. I support a ban on AR-15s and bump stocks. And I think firearms ought to be treated no different than motor vehicles. You buy one, you should have to get it insured, you should have to get it registered. And when you transfer it or sell it to someone else, there should be a transfer of title where you ought to be able to track it. That's how I feel personally. And I'm also, I have a CWP and I carry as well. But I also understand that the best and the most appropriate venue for dealing with the proliferation of guns in our country is at the federal level and at the state level. As Mr. Livingston mentioned earlier, there are things that we could do at the local level to deal with the root causes of gun violence. You look at many of the communities where gun violence is rampant. Oftentimes, these are areas that have been historically disadvantaged, whether it's educationally or economically, and there's been disinvestment in those communities. And that is where county council has a role to play. But when you start talking about the accessibility of firearms, that is where our local, not local, our federal and our state authorities have to take the lead. And so, for me, 2020 Hampton Street and council chambers is not the proper venue to litigate this issue. And when you think about tax cuts versus tax, incentives, I think it's important to highlight that this is not a tax cut, for FN manufacturing. This is a tax incentive. There's a very distinct difference between the two. And I'm speaking to the listening audience and for those who are at home, because I want them to understand that at least since I've been on county council, we have not engaged in what some would call corporate welfare, where you dole out a tax cut or you reduce the taxes that a company pays with no expectation of a return to the taxpayers. That is a tax cut. A tax incentive, we are incentivizing, or we're trying to encourage companies that are not in Richland County to locate here so we can put them on the tax rolls. And for companies that are currently here, we're trying to incentivize you to expand your operations, expand that facility so we can add it to the tax rolls. If you don't have that expansion, there's nothing for the county to tax, so there's nothing for us to collect. So it's not a giveaway. It's not charity. We're not giving away tax dollars when it comes to tax incentives. The taxpayer is actually getting something in return. And I have a final point that I'll close with. And this is a larger issue that speaks to just economic development in general. And I think that it's a very slippery slope, and we set a very, I would say, dangerous, precedent when we allow cultural wedge issues to seep into economic development decisions. Today it's FN manufacturing, because they manufacture guns. But as Mr. Livingston said, what happens tomorrow when it's a pharmaceutical company who wants to locate here in Richland County, and it just so happens that they manufacture an abortion-inducing pill? I can only imagine how many people we'll have standing inside this chamber, from wall to wall. And those folks are going to say to council, well, you allowed cultural war wedge issues to seep into economic development decisions in the past. What's different now? We won't have the luxury of saying that we make economic development decisions solely on just the merit and nothing else. And then you also have to be, concerned with the line of thinking that if a company manufactures a product, that if abused or misused, could cause harm to someone or have fatal consequences. If you go down that line of thinking, we wouldn't have Mark Anthony Brewing here in Richland County, an alcohol manufacturer or beer manufacturer. You would not have Scout Motor Vehicles coming here to Richland County, which manufactures cars. And when you look at the data, and this is just not my data, but if you look at NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, the CDC, the numbers show that you have more people that die annually from motor vehicle accidents than you do from gun violence. It's not to say that one is more important than the other. When you look at the data from the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics, it shows that you have more people who die annually from alcohol-related deaths than from gun violence. The point is, once you go down this road and you take the position that because an item that a company manufactures has the potential to be abused or misused and could have fatal consequences, you run the risk of turning Richland County, which for the past 4 or 5 years has been an oasis for economic development, potentially into a graveyard or a desert for economic development. And I don't think that any of us want that. As for how this item came back before council tonight, there was no trickery that took place. There was no bending the rules. This was one of 3 economic development items that was on the agenda for the April 18th meeting. 2 of the 3 items passed, and council members had moved for reconsideration, meaning that those items could not come back before the body. This particular item, council did not move for reconsideration. So to use sort of a football analogy, we left a live ball on the field, in essence. And so it's ripe and it's appropriate for this body to take it back up if someone makes a motion for reconsideration. And I'll just close with this. I think the question was asked, how many jobs have been created here in Richland County by this manufacturer? And for what I'm looking at, FN Yes America has put, they have 600 people that they've hired. Of those 600 people, nearly half of those positions are jobs here in Richland County with their average hourly wage of $25 an hour. So again, it's an incentive that the county is considering to incentivize this company that's been here for 40 years, not to seek a handout, but to continue to grow their business and put people to work and to expand the tax base. I want to thank everyone, on council for indulging me. It's rare that, I take the time and sort of give a monologue, but I felt the need to speak out on this issue, as I think it's very important for people to know that this council, does not, or at least should not, make economic development decisions that are driven by cultural wedge issues. Ms. McBride?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You made several statements that I could go back and give rationale for why they're wrong, but then we're all entitled to our opinions. And that's just what you gave and what I gave. If you look at incentives, I do want to say, if incentives did not help reduce price, we wouldn't have businesses coming. So you can say, some people say 6 eggs, others say a half a dozen. So it depends on the person that's speaking and their opinion. So I disagree with most of what you said in terms of jobs. I can't say how many jobs because I was told we did not have that information when I requested it. So it's interesting that some information is coming and some is not. I'm not going to prolong this, but I am a highway safety professional. And I know that automobile crashes kill many, many people, one of the highest killing areas in the United States. But I also know automobile crashes are accidents. They are not intentional. When you use the guns that we've seen being used, killing thousands of people all over the United States, those weren't accidents. Those were intentional. But my issue has never been one about gun control. And some kind of way, we blur that. Mine is using tax incentives, and incentives, that's money, using tax incentives for commercial weapons. Let the companies sell their guns, but do not use tax incentives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Ms. Barron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I really wasn't going to say anything because I did take the opportunity to address my feelings with an article that was at the Post, on the Post and Courier. And I sit here kind of like really heavy-hearted because in my district, just over the weekend, 11 children, 11 young people were shot in a flash, what they call flash parties, right? And so I listened to on one side how guns are very dangerous when they're in the wrong hands. And then tonight, we took an opportunity and celebrated Small Business Week. And as being a small business owner, you know, anytime that I'm able to get an incentive that will do my business good, that helps me expand, that helps me provide more jobs, that helps me allow my staff to feed more, to feed their family and do more with their family. And I really don't want us to, where this is kind of a heavy issue because it is talking about guns. And I think the other piece that I hear Ms. McBride saying from my standpoint is if there is some concerns about incentives and how long we give them and who gets them for what, then I'd like to challenge this body to dig a little bit deeper into something like that. Because perhaps for many years, Richland County has been the county that people kind of glossed over and drove through. They didn't put a scout motor here. That didn't happen for us. But now is a great time because we are on the cutting edge of economic development. So if we're on the cutting edge, we have to change with times. So as we are changing with times, if it's something that this body has challenges with as it relates to how we give incentives and who we give it to and for how long and for what, then this is the time for us to really start to look forward and to attend the economic development meetings and create work sessions, whatever we have to do to address this issue. But I think at the end of the day, for, you know, just thinking from a business perspective, this makes good business sense. It's not, I remove my feelings that, you know, I'm still having after, you know, spending time with those families just this weekend. You know, I remove my feelings from that. And that was a conversation that I had to have with those families. Well, you voted yes for this. And I specifically, and I stood by my vote, and I will stand by my vote again because this is about business. This is not necessarily about, about 11 children getting shot over the weekend. This is about doing right, expanding services, expanding businesses, expanding opportunities, and getting more people employed here. And so with that, I just, again, I'll say it one more time. If we have some challenges with how we do business, let's put some motions forward. Let's do the work to make some changes to have these hard conversations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Any additional discussion or questions? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Accusing myself due to my parent company representing this business.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
No.
Motion approved.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. English,
move for reconsideration.
Second.
it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Nope.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
No.
Barron, Walker,
No.
Mackey,
Recused.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
At this time, entertain a motion to approve the minutes, I guess as amended from the regular session, April 18th, 2023.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda, item 6B.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Ms. Barron?
move to approve items B and C.
Second.
Okay. Properly second. Any discussion? Ms. Newton?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend that motion with a correction or annotation rather, to the zoning public hearing items, item C. On page 40 of our agenda, which is item 4, number 2, it notes that I asked a question about RSE zoning, and if that zoning was less dense or more dense than rural. The answer that's recorded in our minutes is the answer that was given in the meeting, which was to say that estate was less dense, but I was given information by the speaker later that that's incorrect. Whatever we need to do with Mr. Wright, just to annotate the correct information, I would love for that to be reflected in our minutes. And so if you'll accept an amendment to your motion to approve both to make that annotation.
I accept.
Accepted. Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 7, adoption. Any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda? There being none, I entertain a motion.
Mr.
You recognize Ms. Newton?
Thank you. Per our previous conversation, do we need a motion here to either suspend the rules or do something different with item?
Well,
8?
Mr. Wright, would that motion would now be the best time for that motion, or could it be made after the agenda has been adopted, as far as a motion to suspend the rules for purposes of executive session?
Right, yes, it can be made after number 7 and be made at number 8.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Right, next item on the agenda is item 8, report of the attorney for executive session items. Is 8A, Richland County Judicial Center Security. Mr. Wright, do you have any outside counsel tonight?
There is no outside counsel. I would like to say that it is pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70, subsections A2 and A3.
I know you don't have any outside counsel, but I believe you have special guests that are here tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Livingston, you recognized?
Chair, I'd like to move that we suspend the rules and allow those items to come at the beginning of the meeting as opposed to the end of the meeting.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
What was the motion?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Time, entertain a motion for executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All right, it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Let the record reflect, I think I may have forgot to mention this, but item 8A, again, is Richland County Judicial Center Security. That's the item. All right, we're in executive session. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver, Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I let the record reflect that we went into executive session this evening with respect to item 8A, which is Richland County Judicial Center security. We received information as well as legal advice, and no action was taken.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize, Madam Vice Chair?
I'd like to make a motion to direct our county administrator to work with the sheriff to fill the 8 deputy positions at the Richland County Judicial Center.
Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
You recognize Councilman Branham?
Thank you. Just wanted to set the stage a little bit, if I could, for the motion. At around 5 o'clock today, we received a letter from the sheriff, county council did, and it set forth some of the struggles that the sheriff's department has had in filling positions. And I'm aware, I've heard that, and we know that there are many competing agencies when it comes to law enforcement compensation in the Midlands, and that's something that's very much on my mind, particularly as we are in the midst of the annual budget cycle, And so that, in conjunction with our executive session in which we heard from some of the judges who currently serve at the Richland County Judicial Center, as well as the clerk of court, they expressed to us concerns related to security. And part of the crux is the rapid decrease in sheriff's deputies and their presence there at the Judicial Center. And so we take that very seriously. Naturally, a courthouse is a place that needs security, and we can understand, again, the realities of the difficulties the sheriff has had in filling not just positions for deputies to be assigned at the Judicial Center, but in other places throughout the county as well. Again, something that I'm very much considering as we work through the normal budget cycle. But what we heard today, I believe, has me, at least, I'll just speak for myself, feeling like this is something of an urgent situation, and we don't want to leave the clerk of court feeling pitted against the sheriff, and having all those that come through the courthouse feeling less secure as a result of any sort of dynamic along those lines. And so I appreciate the motion that's been made by Councilwoman Mackey, which is meant to be an emergency measure that, at least in my mind, will help us get through the full annual budgeting cycle process, where I hope that we will be able to further and more comprehensively address some of the compensation issues that the Sheriff's Department is facing. My understanding is that part of this motion includes authorizing the county administrator to work with the sheriff in unique ways, as it were, to potentially provide the level of compensation that would be needed to fill these positions quickly, or to have deputies to be able to be assigned quickly to the courthouse to provide, again, security for all those who go through there, for the judges that work there day in and day out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Bradley. Any additional discussion or questions on this item? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion for reconsideration, if necessary.
Yes, I'd.
Move to reconsider.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 9, citizens' input. For items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing, Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
Mr. Chair, no individuals are signed up to speak this evening.
Next item on the agenda is item 10, citizens' input must pertain to Richland County matters not on the agenda. Items for which a public hearing is required or a public hearing has been scheduled cannot be addressed at this time. Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 3 individuals that have signed up to speak this evening. The first is Tracy Robbins. Hi. If you would, state your first and last name as well as your address, and you'll be given 2 minutes to speak. You'll hear an alarm when that 2 minutes time period has been reached.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tracy Robbins, my address is 221 Alexander Circle, and I won't even take 2 minutes. I came today to talk, to give you guys a copy of a Canvas report. I made some copies and it was supposed to be given to you. And I did want to mention that I did contact my own council member and really haven't heard back. So that's why I wanted to come today and make sure I give all of you a copy. And what it is, I didn't print the whole report out, just the first 2 pages. This is from a group called SC Safe Elections Group. And on the first 2 pages, it kind of gives a background on the group. And that's for your knowledge. It has their website, which has tons of information. And this report was given out last year. This is a volunteer group that did canvassing, led by some people in Lexington County. And as you can see on the first page, they chose a couple key counties to focus on. And if you look at the map on the first page, you can see that Richland County is red. And that means that the red counties had the highest amount of voter fraud that they found during their canvass. If you compare that to like Chester County is green, then they found, little. And then on the third page, which is actually has the number 6 under it, is where I copied the part about Richland County. And this canvas was not of the entire county, it was just, they did just smidgens within each of the counties. And in Richland, they looked at 793 voting records and canvassed just those 793. And out of those 793, they found an error rate of 82%. And it's broken up to the left in a chart of some of the discrepancies, like, for example, out of 793 votes,
That's your time, ma'am.
Okay, 114 were from commercial lots. So, thank you.
All right. Next is Brooklyn Mack. It doesn't matter. You would state your first and last name, your address, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brooklyn Mack. My address is 27 Coral Court, Columbia, South Carolina. May I begin? All right, as I said, my name is Brooklyn Mack. I am an international principal guest artist as well as the artistic director of Columbia Classical Ballet. I've had an extensive career in dance, one that's taken me around the world, from the London Coliseum to Tokyo's Bunkamora, the Bolshoi in Moscow, and New York's Metropolitan Opera, and many more. I've also had probably more awards than I can keep track of. Many of them first for an African American, some of them first for an American period, such as the coveted Grand Prix Award at the International Ballet Competition in Istanbul in 2012. In 2015, I was part of More History as myself and Misty Copeland became the first African American dancers to portray the leads in the classic ballet Swan Lake. I've been featured on ABC, NBC, NPR, Ebony Magazine, The Griots, and more. The reason all of this is important is because I was born right here in Columbia, South Carolina, and raised in Elgin. The impetus for it all started right here. My school took a field trip to see a ballet gala entitled Life Chance that was presented by Columbia Classical Ballet. Life Chance is a dance benefit gala that brings together stars from all over the world right here to Columbia, South Carolina for a one-night-only event to raise awareness and funding for various charitable causes and has done so for more than 2 decades now. As the current artistic director of Columbia Classical Ballet, it is my endeavor to continue the legacies at the core of this very company. The main one being bringing the highest quality of dance to the Midlands in the great state of South Carolina. Beyond entertaining, dance is transformative, cathartic, healing, inspiring, unifying, and liberating. So for the time that I'm here, I want to give back in this way so that Columbia and the greater South Carolina community can have access and exposure to this wonderful art form, because that is what our community and especially our young people deserve.
That is your time.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lisa, is it Samara? Smar. Thank you. Please state your first and last name, your address, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lisa Smar. My address is 720 Kiwana Road, Columbia 29205. Hard to follow Brooklyn, but I am a board member of the Columbia Classical Ballet. I'm a lifetime resident of Columbia, educated in Richland 1 and 2 schools, 1982 graduate of USC with a degree in physical education. And I recently retired after about that much shy of 40 years with the Richland County Rec Commission. So I know a lot of you, especially our wonderful chair, since he was, well, I've known him since he was a little tiny guy. Derek's always been about the same size since I've known him, but it's wonderful to have these relationships. And I've known Councilman Livingston for many, many years, going back to Kaufman Road Park, but I digress, and I promised I wouldn't do that. But anyway, in an effort to quantify the breadth of our outreach, and that's Columbia Classical Ballet's outreach in Richland County, I want to offer a list of some of the recipients of community outreach, which are complimentary tickets to performances at the Koger Center. And these are some of the groups that have benefited. I'm going to try to get this out. Bluff Road Park, Trenham Park, Kaufman Road Park, Eastover Park, the Gadsden Community Center, the Crossroads Community Center, Park Lane Adult Activity Center, the Gardeners Ferry Adult Activity Center, Denny Terrace Adapted Recreation, Community Options, Steps of Faith Dance, the Russian and Ukrainian Community, Upper Richland Community Center, Meadow Lake Park, St. Andrews Park, the Ballantyne Community Center, the Richland County Sheriff's Department, Newcastle Trenham Acres Community Center, North Springs Park, North Springs Community Center, Pine Grove Community Center, Crane Creek Gym, Hopkins Park, Rice Estate, Epworth Children's Home, Fort Jackson Family Housing, Forest Lake Park, when it was still a park, Pierre and Thomas Community Center, St. Lawrence Place, and most recently Camp Aspen. That's not just 1 or 2 people. Each one of those represents anywhere from 10 or 15 to hundreds, and we have given thousands of tickets to those folks. And we appreciate what you do. These outreach tickets provide wiggle room in the family budget when deciding where to spend entertainment or their hospitality tax dollars. Gas in the vehicle, dinner before the ballet, refreshments or a little Cersei at intermission, or even dessert after the show are affordable when these community outreach tickets are
That is your time.
offered. Thank you for your support in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes all the individuals that have signed up to speak this evening.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Let me just take a moment of personal privilege here. I promise I'll be very brief, but Ms. Smar, I couldn't help it. You know, after you, I guess you called me out in front of everybody as far as saying you've known me since I was yay high. But no, it's true. Ms. Smar has known me since I was a kid, and I can tell you that she is truly a staple in the Richland County community with respect to recreation, as well as working with youth, She has poured into the lives of hundreds of youth for well over 2 to 3 decades, and I am one of those young people that Ms. Smarr has had she's had a huge impact on my life, and she knows my mother very well, and she can tell you some stories about just how my mom is very, very much no nonsense. But it's good to see you, Ms. Smarr, even after all these years. You're supposed to be retired, but you're still active and you're still giving of your time and your energy for the betterment of Richland County, and it's such a delight to see you this evening. You recognize Mr. Pugh.
Well, I definitely can't let the chair talk about his experience growing up and knowing Ms. Smarr. For over 10 years, Ms. Smarr was a colleague of mine at the Richland County Parks and Rec, and is an amazing individual, always about community outreach when it comes to making sure that recreation is at the forefront. And every time she tells somebody that she worked at the Parks and Rec for that many years, the question is, when did you start working at 5? So thank you for everything that you do for our community. And as the chair just said, you're not retired. You're still working just as hard as you were when you were working for Richland County Parks and Rec.
Next item on the agenda is item 11, report of the county administrator. Mr. Brown, you're recognized.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. In the interest of time, you certainly have items in your packet, and some of this stuff will come up again, so I'll just focus on one of the key areas. Next, you have a meeting that's scheduled on May 23rd, and during that meeting related to the DNS, we plan on having the Planning Commission Chair, Mr. Christopher Yonke, present the recommendations that came out of the Planning Commission. He will be there to kind of present and respond to questions that the committee members may have. So want to make sure if you have information that you're still looking for, that you kind of have that on your idea, to make sure you have questions to Mr. Jensen so that Mr. Yonke can be prepared related to that information. Also just want to put in your packet, the county did receive 2 awards. Again, we'll talk more about that. I don't want to take too much of your time tonight. But you did have staff that submitted applications and ultimately received funding that will help support Richland County in the area of water and sewer, and I think that's a big deal. So wanted to present that to you, but if there are any other questions that you have from my report, I'll let you ask those. Otherwise, I'll spend time in the future at another time.
Questions from the body for Mr. Brown? You recognize Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to say that, Mr. Brown, I completely agree with you. That is a big deal. And so I do think we should take a moment to acknowledge that, because it is really needed and it is a big deal that we've been acknowledged for. So thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Very briefly, for any of my constituents who are watching, I know very interested in land development code. I spoke with ACA Jensen this afternoon, and we will be conducting another community meeting in the Ballantyne area after the Development and Services Committee meeting that happens on May 23rd. Thank you.
Okay. Questions or discussion regarding the administrator's report? Mr. Brown, does that conclude your report?
It does, Mr. Chair, and again, I'll give more time at another date, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, next item on the agenda is item 12, report of the Clerk of Council. Madam Clerk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. A reminder that we have a general fund budget work session this Thursday at 3 p.m. Everyone has received a copy of their agenda, so please take a time to review it. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item 13, report of the chair. Chair does not have any updates or announcements at this time, but I couldn't help but notice to my left flank this huge edifice. It looks like a trophy. I believe Mr. Livingston has brought it into the chamber tonight. Mr. Livingston, you care to share, I guess, as part of the chair's report, what that is that we're staring at?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I attended the Cornbread Festival on North Main this past weekend, which is a great annual festival. And at that festival, we often compete for the cornhole trophy here. In usually the city of the county. We have won it the first 3 years or so, and the city got kind of lucky last year and won, so we won it back this year.
Brought the title back home.
I brought the title back home this year.
All right. All right. Throw with your good arm?
Throw with the best arm.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, you recognize, Ms. Barron.
I think at some point, the county may want to get a trophy case so we can put Mr. Livingston's trophy right by Vice Chair Mackey's trophy.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barron, I agree.
Oh, God, I tell you, and we were doing so well. Doing so well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. All
I
right.
believe Mr. Livingston neglected to say that he single-handedly won the trophy.
I had to do it on behalf of my colleagues, yeah.
Well, he's a humble guy. He's the paragon of humility. So, yes, Mr. O.
While we're talking, we all got a text message from the folks that said it was canceled, so I guess they was trying to sabotage us, but Mr. Livingston hung in there and brought home the trophy anyway.
I got a person
Thank you,
called
Mr.
and made it
Livingston.
on time.
They told us it was canceled.
I got
Right.
the same message, yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 14, approval of consent items. Item 14A, you recognize Ms. Newton.
I move to approve items 14A through E.
Second.
Properly second. Yeah, so, Madam Clerk, take the vote. Items
Brenham?
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Again, items A through E, right, Ms. Newton? Okay. Right, Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride. Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
If any of these items B through E need to be reconsidered,
Please, Mr. Chair.
that's a question.
Move to be reconsidered.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any
Mr. Chair, there was,
items B through E?
can we remove, B through I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but-
B through E, B, C, D, and E.
We're good.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
You recognize.
I just have a quick question before the motion for reconsideration. This may not be the proper time, but Mr. Brown, just a question on D, the Hampton Street roof. We talked before about how previous councils had not set the money aside for the replacement of the roof. Have we made any strides on that? Are we setting aside now, like, reserve funds, 1/20th for the new roof, like, over 20 years, or is this not the proper time for that? I'm not sure.
Well, Mr. Brown, before you answer that question, it's already been seconded. So, I believe the motion has been seconded, so it's discussion. So, has the motion been seconded? Yeah, for reconsideration. Okay. So it's already been seconded, discussion. So, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. We have a capital improvement fund that we're setting funding aside just in general for county operations, for maintenance.
Okay, so 20 years from now, when we need another roof, we should have some funding set aside for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. That's better planning. Thank you, Mr. Brown. That's it, Mr.
That's
Chairman.
all right. So we, additional questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote for a reconsideration.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride. No. Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 14F. Any agency receiving funds from Richland County must provide an accounting for those funds prior to a request for funds in the next fiscal year budget. Reason, accountability, can't talk, is a must for taxpayer dollars, and that motion was authored by former council member Bill Malinowski on June 7th, 2022. If I recall correctly, just from what I read, I thought there was a recommendation to send this to the.
Mr. Chair, if I may be recognized.
Yes.
Thank you. So item F is an item that was discussed in the Administration and Finance Committee. I'm assuming that it is appearing under consent items because the committee agreed unanimously to move forward with a recommendation to have this motion be sent to the Community Impact Grant Committee. There really is not a necessary action that needs to be taken. I believe it's more of a recommendation, but I would like confirmation from our county attorney. My understanding, this was a recommendation to send it to another committee.
Yes, with that recommendation, the committee voted that it be sent, the recommendation to be sent to a committee, so the body needs to vote to actually send it to that committee.
Ms. Mackey, thank you for that clarification. that item with item 17A. So, thank you. All right.
Or actually, the chair can send it to a committee.
Agenda as a consent item, right? So wouldn't the appropriate mechanism, I guess, for disposition this evening would be a motion as opposed to me just willy-nilly sending it to committee?
Well, technically, I guess it's under the consent items, but it's something, the item itself is not something that I guess it necessarily is needed to be voted on by the body. It's something that you could actually send forward to a committee because it was sent to a different committee initially. So this is not actually any action for the body, it's just to be sent to a committee.
Sent to committee.
Right.
I can just send it to committee. Okay, so we can move. I need to verbally.
Yeah, just verbally send it
Well,
to
I'm
them
getting
if
a
you
look
choose
from the
to.
clerk, so I'm assuming she's thinking about the minutes for the next meeting. So, all right, well, we'll send this to the Community Impact Grant Committee, this item, 14F. All right, next item on the agenda is item 15, second reading items. 15A, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 corridor, regional industrial park, jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits, the project urban renewal, and other related matters. I entertain a motion.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston. Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item on the agenda is item 16A, first reading items, an ordinance authorizing the levying of ad valorem property taxes, which together with the prior year's carryover and other state levies and any additional amount appropriated by the Richland County Council prior to July 1, 2023, will provide sufficient revenues for the operations of Richland County government during the period from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, so as to raise revenue, make appropriations, and amend the general fund, millage agencies, special revenue funds, enterprise funds, and debt service funds budget for Richland County, South Carolina for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. This is by title only. Entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Approve.
Second.
It's been properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 16B, an ordinance authorizing the levying of ad valorem property taxes, which together with the prior year's carryover and other state levies and any additional amount appropriated by the Richland County Council prior to July 1, 2023, will provide sufficient revenues for the operations of Richland County government during the period from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 by title only. I entertain a motion.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride. Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 17, report of Administration and Finance Committee that will be provided by the Honorable Jessica Mackey. Madam Vice Chair, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 17A is a motion that was made by former Councilmember Malinowski on May 3rd relating to directing the county administrator to create a new IGA regarding the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. The Administration and Finance Committee recently met, and per staff's recommendation, we agreed with the recommendation to send this motion to the Detention Center Ad Hoc Committee for their review and consideration. So similar to the other one, Mr. Chair, we would like for you to send it to another committee, please.
It's not necessary. I just need to send it to
That is the recommendation that was received by staff that the committee agreed with.
Okay. Send this to the Detention Center Ad Hoc Committee. All right. Vice
That
Chair.
concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is item 18, report of the Rules and Appointments Committee that will be given by the Honorable Gretchen Barron. Councilwoman, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee met today and we conducted interviews for the Midlands Workforce Development. And with that, we have in our agenda suggested terms, the suggested terms for the Workforce Development Board. And it is our recommendation that we'd like for this body to accept our terms to accept these terms as are written, and it's our goal that there would be staggered, and that would allow for, to allow the committee to not have an influx of individuals coming in at the same time or leaving at the same time.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Aaron, does this item need to be reconsidered?
I'm not sure. I'll take the guidance of the attorney.
I would say yes, since the appointments will be taking effect, so.
Entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride, Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No?
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Ms. Barron, that concludes the report of the Rules and Appointments Committee.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 19, report of the Office of Small Business Opportunity. That will be given by the Honorable Derek Pugh. Councilman, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On April 25th, 2023, the Office of Small Business Opportunity Ad Hoc Committee recommended that the committee works with the County Attorney's Office to draft a new ordinance allowing the Office of Small Business Opportunities to be a standalone department. Committee and council members are to provide recommendations regarding this ordinance to the County Attorney's Office by May the 15th. 2023. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? You recognize Mr. Livingston?
I didn't see it in my packet, but it'd be nice if each councilman can get a copy of that ordinance, the current ordinance.
That's something that can be provided, Mr. Wright. You need it immediate, well, at this moment, Mr. Livingston, or is that something?
Yeah, no, not now.
Okay, just making sure.
If the clerk has it, she can send it to the council members.
Additional questions or discussion? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr. Wright, does this item need to be reconsidered? Is that
No.
necessary? It's not necessary, okay. Next item on the agenda is item 20, other items.
Mr.
I'm
Chair.
hoping someone will make a
Mr.
motion.
Chair.
I would gleefully accept it. You recognize, Ms. Newton?
I will gleefully submit it. I move to approve items 20A through F.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Chair.
Move for reconsideration.
So what?
Second.
Yes, second. Wow. I'm really feeling the synergy. Let's move to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 21, executive session. We don't have any additional items for executive session this evening. Next item is 22, motion period. There are no motions before this body. Item 23, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, move to properly second, non-debatable. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes?
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron, Walker.
Yes.
Thank you. Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are adjourned.